three areas that we work on. The one that I've been working on for longest is on neurodegenerative diseases, that's Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. We're also very interested in the much more philosophical question of how the brain generates consciousness, and that's another area we'll work on. And then we're also interested in the impact of technology on the developing brain, especially on children's brains, and the kinds of changes that we might be seeing as a result of this changed environment that we call the 21st century. So they're the three areas.
You're interested on the impact of modern technology on the brain. So that's computer games, social networking sites. Can you summarise your views, first of all, on computer games?
Okay, I think with computer games, what will happen is you'll have improved IQ, because the same kind of skills that you have when you do an IQ test are similar to when you do a computer game. It's a very abstracted situation where you don't need much background knowledge, where you're looking at patterns, you're trying to get to a very specific answer in a relatively short period of time. A little bit like when you're driving and you're responding very quickly to a lot of cues and signs that are coming in. So that's very good for information processing. But information is not knowledge, and as someone else has said, just because you might see a rise in IQ does not mean to say that you're seeing a rise in novel writing or symphony writing or insights into the economic situation. It's not the same as understanding and knowledge. And for me, understanding and knowledge is relating one thing to another, which is the opposite of what you're doing with a computer game, where you're working in isolation with a very specific task on something that doesn't assume or is not predicated on background information or knowledge, such as when you're reading a book, say, where there's a lot of background information and knowledge that you need.
And social networking? With
social networking, I think there's further issues there. If you think about it, as we're talking now, we're looking each other in the eye. We're not that familiar with each other, so you'd be alarmed if I hugged you, probably, and it's not that kind of relationship. But you learn very quickly as you're growing the kind of relationship, the degree to which you know someone, on how you respond to them, how close you sit to them, your voice tone, how much you look them in the eye, how much you look away. If I was to stare you in the eye now, that would freak you out, because you don't know. And if I stared away as I was talking to you, that would also spook you. So these are very subtle, clever skills that we learn as we're growing. And my fear is that none of these are available on Facebook, so that if you're constantly with social networking sites, with your 900 friends or whatever, you're not learning these very important skills for social communication, which means that when you're confronted with it, you'll feel uncomfortable, and therefore you'll resort back to the 900 friends rather than feeling uncomfortable, going red and sweating palms and your voice going squeaky. You'll feel uncomfortable and unhappy. How much nicer to talk to the screen. So my fear there is that that will reduce empathy, because obviously one only knows how other people feel by picking up on their body language and their voice tones and so on. And also I'm concerned about one's own identity, because one's own identity is very much anchored in a past and a future and a life story where things are significant and mean something, where things have a certain degree of permanence, where actions can't be reversed. And the screen technologies, if you lump them together, actually put you in an environment where you are in the here and now, where things can be reversed, where you are the passive recipient to what is bombarding you. And I just wonder whether...
You're talking now about computer games? Or?
Well, both. In both cases. You are
social networking
Yes,
sites.
In both cases you're passive responding to fast things coming in. And I just wonder with Twitter, for example, whether that's an example of people who are in existential crisis, because who really cares about what you had for breakfast and what socks you're putting on? And yet in certain cases people will do this solipsistic readout of everything they're doing and thinking. And that reminds me slightly of a small child. Look at me, I'm putting on one sock. Look at me, I'm putting on another sock. Look at me, Mummy, because you don't look at me. How do I know I'll exist? And I think that, therefore, notions of identity might get less robust than they are now.